Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, where the podcast talks about a man's battle with mental health, his personal experiences, and his journey to be a better soul. Hosted by James Dean Littlejohn.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gentleman's Talk. I'm only jumping on, really. It's a quick one. I'm going back live in a bit, but I wanted to just continue on from my last two podcasts. Obviously, if you've listened to them, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, listen to them, and this all makes sense. But it's interesting, carrying on from that. So I've done a little bit of research, because I think it's only fair that I try and understand where hopefully she was coming from, to try and sort of interpret myself in and see if I was wrong or was I right. I don't know. You know, have I taken too much offence to this because of me and the way that I emotionally think? Have I taken offence to it? I don't know. I don't know, really, is the answer. I don't really know. But what I do with life, anything in life, anything that creates an emotion, anything that challenges me, anything that sort of especially upsets me, and I was very upset, because for me, as I said in my last podcast, it played down the emotions from me, and it sort of made me feel a bit shit. So one thing you'll learn from me is I'm very passionate about what I do. Everything I get stuck into, I'm absolutely focused. I'm absolutely passionate. I don't do things by half. I research the fine details. So when I give you advice and I try things for myself, it's coming from the heart. It's coming from a passionate place. It's coming from a kind place. It's never in a negative place. And I sort of kind of finished the last podcast because I had to get it out there. But at the same time, I want to caveat that with a little bit less emotion, but at the same time offering a little bit of an insight, really, from my perspective, and hopefully try and unpick it from my perspective, because I very nearly quit this, and I've been doing this 6, almost 7 months. And you know, as I spoke to my friend and Billy, and he turned around to me and said, "Mate, you've done 81 podcasts, and out of 80 podcasts, everything's been positive. This is the one podcast. Put it to bed." So offered me that kind of insight and said he was going to listen to try and unpick it and offer me some sort of advice, hopefully. You know, so, and it kind of hit home for me, really. When I went into the living room and I was going to have my tea, and my dog jumped up on the sofa, which he doesn't normally do, only when he sort of sees the sadness in me, really. And he jumped on the sofa and put his head on me and just sat there. And then I shouted at him. Then I got down, and then he was waiting by the front door to go for a walk. And I shouted at him because I was like, "Fucking wait for me, rah, rah, rah." But what he wanted was to go out, because he could see that that's what makes me happy, was going out with him. And he just sort of looked at me with his ears down, and then went and sat in the living room. And I kind of went, he was just trying to help me. And if anyone's going to know me, my dog, you know, he's lived with me for 9 years. He saved my life by getting me up and out of bed. And he's saved my life many, many times. There's been times where I've been sat there and, you know, I've been in the sort of darkest of places, and, you know, reflecting heavily. And I've always looked at him and gone, you know, why am I here? To look after him. And he looks after me. So, you know, the podcasts have made me very emotional, because I think I'm hoping I'm doing things for the right reason. Now, I unpicked it, and this isn't to try and belittle the podcast and belittle what she does, but I just wanted to look into things. And so I went and listened to one of her podcasts, and I went and looked at what she was doing as a podcast, because, you know, obviously she's jumped onto a man's mental health podcast and tried to interject and says she deals with men, or she looks after men. So I was like, oh God, she must be something to do with mental health. And I'm not playing her down in any way, shape, or form. She sounded like an amazing lady. Just came at it from me for the wrong angle, and she deals with BDSM and dominatrix style of stuff, and that's not a negative. Absolutely, you know, that's fantastic. There's a market for it. She's got followers, and she's trying to help relationships, so she's actually doing a great thing. So, but do I think that that's going to be able to offer advice to a man with mental health conditions? Absolutely not. I think she was looking at it from a relationship perspective. I think that she was trying to get into the mind of me. However, I'm an alpha male. So I think, to put it into context, the reason that came to loggerheads was because I'm someone that can't be dominated. I can't be put down. If I've got an opinion or I'm passionate about something, I will absolutely air my feelings, and rightly so. But at the same time, I listened to her feelings. But when I spoke, it was different. So it's an interesting scenario how one person can make you feel so fucking awful unintentionally. I hope. I don't think she set out to target me, but at the same time, acknowledging the background that she'd had, where she'd alluded to the fact that she'd been abused, probably by a male. So she has a what's the word I'm looking for? A skewed perception of men, because when you've been in that scenario, and trust me, I'm coming from a wealth of knowledge in the sense I've done a lot of case studies. I've read a lot of case studies. I've dealt with a lot of mental health. So I understand the parameters of it. I'm not going to offer advice from how a woman feels, because that would be wrong of me, and that would contradict what I've just said that she was trying to do. So I'm not going to offer it from that advice. What I'm going to do is unpick it from my end to try and make me understand it, to see if I was in the wrong, because I'm trying to do something that's aimed at a completely different market, and I'm trying to help men. And that wasn't what I felt I was getting from her. And it's not to dwell on the subject between me and her, but it's to dwell on the subject of how it went. Now, that is the important aspect for me, because I don't want to get into challenges, and I understand that the life's going to chuck you challenges, so we need to manage these, and this is why I talk and be open, and I'm an honest person, and this is why I'm doing this podcast, is to honestly give my perception of how I feel. Now, I felt that her background has skewed her perception of men. So when she sees a man just talking, and because it's above her, she then looks at it as an aggressive tactic, or so that's my dogs. She looks at it from an aggressive tactic when it wasn't. I was just literally defending myself, and I think that her perception is lack of her. Oh, I was going to go outside and tell my dogs off then. Buddy, that's my boy, Buddy. But you look at it from a skewed perception, because I don't think she's dealt with her own demons. She alluded to the fact that she hadn't dealt with her demons, but here I am trying to deal with my demons. And I was made, like I said, to feel inadequate, and I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that was made to feel. And somebody who deals with dominatrix and BDSM and those are not used to... Listening to her podcast and looking at her podcasts, she's very much in the I want to break men down and empower women. So it's kind of like the complete opposite to me. I'm certainly not trying to break anybody down. I'm not trying to break down another gender. All I'm trying to do is offer support to men. And then that was a classic example of me offering support and getting put down and then leaving because the conversation didn't go her way. And I felt sad. I did. Like I said, I spoke to my friend, and I was like, I just want to give up, mate. I don't know what I've done wrong there. I'm trying to offer advice and support. But it's interesting, if you're trying to be, and this is for future, if somebody's trying to offer you support and advice, make sure that it's on point. Make sure it's on context. And that's why I would never walk into a scenario and offer my perspective of men to women, because I don't think it's agreed. We've all got different we're all raised differently. We're all managed differently. We manage life differently. And I took such a huge emotional offence to that. Not offence, the wrong word. But it upset me emotionally, because I didn't feel I deserved to be made to feel like that, and made to feel like that my mental health condition was irrelevant, and I needed to heal my heart first. There's a difference between healing your heart and healing your brain, because my brain, one of them is something you can't just heal. It's ADHD, so we need to learn about that, and I'm learning about that. I don't think that I don't think she's got any experience in that aspect. And PTSD is from a trauma that is really hard to treat, because it's trauma based. Healing your heart is completely different, because I have been hurt along the way, but that's not a reason to why I am and the way I feel now. The way I feel now is because of the stress and pressures of being a man. in a world where you're not allowed to be emotional, and where you have to be hard-faced, you have to be that way. So it was interesting to unpick that and her perception and how she's made one person feel. And it's so easy. You have to really consider what you're saying before you say it. And that one person came onto a podcast and undid 6 months of hard work. And it's really, really hard for a man to open up at the best of times. But to have an open conversation on a live platform where I'm just trying to express myself and I'm being told that my anxiety is high. Your anxiety is high again, James. My anxiety isn't high at all. I was just having a conversation. But it's interesting, her background had skewed her perception of men, which then came on to belittle my own thought processes. So, and this is why men don't talk, because they're often challenged like that all the time. And I've gone through all the emotions since that podcast. I've gone through anger. I've gone through sadness. I've gone through anger again. And here I am now calm, just trying to explain what I think the perception of that came from. And I only talk about that because I think it's valuable to try and dissect a conversation with somebody, but offer it from as many perspectives as you can. And that's why I jumped onto one of her podcasts and listened to her and understood what she was trying to do. She was trying to rebuild relationships. Some of her podcasts are based on empowering women in a male-dominated bedroom, if you like, with the BDSM, and all her perception is almost about dominating the male. So it's really hard for you to come onto a podcast with another man and offer your advice, but as soon as you're challenged by the male, you walk away. And that's the bit that I find hard, because I felt passionately about my own podcast. I felt passionately about what I'm doing. I research absolutely everything I talk about. It's either coming straight from the heart through my own experiences and challenges, or it's coming from me researching things and understanding it. And that's what I did here. That's why I'm back on in another calm nature, is to jump on and not just offer my sort of angry perception like I did in my possible last podcast, because I was angry. I was like, I'm so passionate about this. She had so many aspects that were right. You're passionate, you're loving, you've got so much to give. She gave all the right things and then completely undid it by dwelling on something that is very, very close to my heart. I do love my children. I've literally just gone for a walk with my dog, and he sat beside me the whole time. So he never normally does that. He goes off. But he sat beside me and just kept looking up. So he knew I was sad. He knew I was in a really dark place. And he's known that for a little while. And I passed my daughter, and my daughter was in the park, and she was surrounded by 7 boys. And they were all just chit-chatting. I say surrounded, not in a negative way. So I walked over and I said, oh, guys, I hope you're looking after my daughter. And they went, of course. And I said, good, because I'll go to prison for her. And they all just looked at me as if to say, do you mean this? I absolutely do. Because I'm that protective over my daughters that when you challenge my methods, I'm not the perfect male, I'm not the perfect dad, I'm not the perfect brother, I'm not the perfect son, I'm not the perfect friend by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm open and honest about that. But I tell you what, I fucking try every day, from the day I wake, from the minute I wake up to the minute I close my eyes. I try, and that is what it's about. I'm not saying I'm successful all the time, but it's amazing how one person can come on and make you feel so inadequate, so low. And this is why the stats are so high for men. Now, her background and her understanding of her perception of men is so skewed, because she said, I've been to loads of psychiatrists and they've never helped me. So she's never had the help she needs. So I don't think that it was right to come on and offer advice on a mental health perspective when her whole forte and whole podcast is linked around dominating men. Now, I can't be dominated. Absolutely not. I'm an alpha male. I'm a true man's man. So I say it as it is. I stick up for myself. I'm passionate about myself. That's not defensive. That's not anxiety. That's not getting angry. That's just me being passionate about what I'm doing here. I've been through the fucking wars and back. I don't want a medal for it. But what I want to do is people to understand. And I'm here to try and open a perception of men that people don't often talk about. And instantly that was undone. And it's given me 2 podcasts and a lot of food for thought. And I don't mean that as in, like, fuel my podcast. I meant it as in I'm so fucking upset with myself, the way this has gone, that I have to keep talking. Because if I don't and I stick it in my mind, I'm going to procrastinate on it. Procrastinate, that's the word I'm looking for, I think. I'm going to sit there and dwell on it, and I'm going to chew on it, and I'm going to unpick it, and it's always going to result in me feeling the worst, because that's what you do when you have mental health problems. You think you've hurt people, and you cloud up, you back up, you go into a little shell. And one person came on and completely unpicked 6 months of work. And I don't understand what the gratification was in that. I don't understand what the credentials were to offer that advice and to offer that feeling. I don't understand why you would want to come on and make someone feel that way. Maybe I've looked at it from an emotional perspective, because that's what I am. I'm an emotional, passionate person. I don't get upset. But I'm certainly more, I don't like crying and all this sort of stuff. I know, and I've said that many times, but I am trying to open up. I'm trying to be more emotional. I'm trying to be more caring. I'm trying to be that person. And it does normally come with age, because most men, as they get older, they tend to lose their testosterone, so they become a little bit more emotional. They come in a bit more in touch with their feminine side. That's why normally men are better fathers and friends as they get older, because they tend to settle down. And that's what's happening with me. I'm tending to settle down. When you're younger, you don't care about the ramifications. You don't care about the repercussions. You just go for it. You just like, fuck everybody. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fuck. I'm going to drink. I'm going to do everything. You know, that's what you do when you're younger. And, you know, the world has been ticking along, and because people don't deal with this stuff. People don't open up about it. People don't target their problems. And I believe that my journey here, and the bit that I enjoy about podcasts, isn't about look at me. It's not about fucking self-pity. That's not what I want. It's about offering support to men out there that feel like this. And it just goes to show how everything can be undone by one person's skewed perception. And that knocked me back months for me. Because now I'm sitting there thinking, am I doing things wrong? Should I be doing this? Should I be offering advice to people? Should I be offering a perception of what I see? Perception seems to be the fucking word of the day here, doesn't it? But it is about perception. And, yeah, I'm going to struggle with that. I really am. I don't want to. And I'm going to go on live in a minute. Anyway, I'm going to go and have a quick drink, a quick cup of tea, because I'm British. But I just wanted to just offer a little bit of understanding. I've done so much since that; it's unbelievable. I feel like I've done a week's worth of work in the last couple of hours, because it's important to address these things. It's important to unpick it, and I did. And I'm very much, if you know me, and anyone that knows me knows that, like I said, I don't do things by half. I research everything properly. So I didn't want to come in and offer an opinion about somebody that's just happened and give it from a skewed perspective. But I went on to learn about what she was doing, what her journey was. I followed her because I can see she's going to do good things for the right market. Empowering women is a fantastic thing, and she doesn't just offer empowering women. She offers, a lot of insight to females. But this is different. Men are different to women. And we need to acknowledge that. And I think that women especially need to understand, because men know that women are different to men. We all do. I think a lot of women don't see that. They don't see the way that men are raised. We're raised not to have feelings. As I've said to you in the last podcast, we're raised not to have these emotions. That's why we don't feel guilt. That's why we don't feel remorse, because we think we're doing the right thing. If you saw 2 men fucking barreling at each other, fighting like fuck, beating 7 shades of shit out of each other, no one's going to cry at the end of it. Someone's going to be hurt, someone's going to lose, someone's going to win. That's it. You go away, there's no emotion about that fight from a man's perspective. I've been there plenty of times, years and years and years and years and years ago. But you don't feel, it's adrenaline driven. So you don't feel the feelings that women feel. You don't feel them, and you have to acknowledge that from a female perspective, that men don't feel that. Women sit there, and there's plenty of times where I've watched fights, and if you've caught it or you've been part of a fight, and the women, you can tell they get emotion. They're just crazy. They want you to stop because they don't understand what you're doing, and it doesn't matter what you do. You've got that adrenaline rush. You're fucking going to town. You just feel he's going to attack you, but once you've pulled apart or whatever, one person's always lost and one person's always won. It's always the case. You try to be the winner, but at the same time, we're competitive. We're testosterone and adrenaline driven. We don't have that emotion at the end of the day. We're not trained to feel that emotion. Especially with my background as a military background, you're trained to ultimately fight. So you get it driven into you and drilled into you. This is where she was like, you're trying to defend yourself. I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm just trying to offer you a background to me. You said you feel like you know me, but you don't know me. There's people around me that don't know me, but you're trained to kill in the military. You're trained to go out and not feel the emotions. The only time you'll ever feel emotions in the military is if you see someone that's hurt. One of your friends has been hurt. You will feel the devastating emotions from that because he's your camaraderie. He's your team member. But you don't get told to deal with it. That's why women traditionally don't go on the front line, because men will sacrifice themselves to save that woman. It's an instinct that's inbred into it. It's a natural instinct. It's part of our genetics. And this is why I'm doing my journey, because I want to offer perspectives to men. I want to help men to try and be in touch with their feminine side, try and be in touch with their emotions and talk out loud. But we've got to be cautious about what we let into our lives, what we let into ourselves. It's interesting. I got bits out of it, but it was completely undone with that. And it's made me... It's been difficult. It's going to be difficult. But hey, I'm not going to dwell on, because I'm going to get myself sorted ready for a new live podcast. But I really appreciate you listening. I really do hope I help. And I hope I offer some support to people. It's a journey that I'm enjoying. So yeah, thanks for listening. And jump on the live soon. Or jump on and whenever you can and have a listen. Take care, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye.